You're listening to TruthDare with your host, Toan Lam. Tell the truth. We dare you.
Welcome to my first podcast. Actually, it's our podcast, Truth Tribers, Truth Tribe Village, Truth Tellers. And I created this because, we all have a secret. And let's be real. There's a secret, this desire, this truth. And that's what we're doing here. We're telling the truth. So what are you hiding? And now more than ever, especially with the recent election, the 2016 election, people just want the freaking truth. And we're going to be real. We're going to interview a lot of awesome people, intriguing people to tell their truth. People that are living inside the box and want to get out of that box. Everyday people, and even some famous people. And in it, my goal is that you find a little bit more of your truth and dare to be bold and share that with the world. Because when you tell your truth, that is the biggest gift you can give to other people, is the real you when you show up authentically. What does it mean to tell the truth? You're claiming your past and all the ugly and the nasty and the sadness that comes with it, and you are claiming the present. And your truth is welcome here. So dare to tell the truth, be bold, and be authentically you. That's what we're doing here. My only goal for this podcast is to open up your heart a little bit more. And when you open up your heart, you not only accept other people, but you really accept your true self. At the core of it all, we want to all be seen and heard and felt. And I don't care if you're in a red state or a blue state, or you're gay or straight or black or white or rich or poor. And so my goal is just to have fun, have people open up, share a little bit about their story at first, and then have them really open up and share a lot about their stories. So just to have fun and open up your heart, and know that at the end of the day, you're going to be okay no matter what challenges you're facing. You're not alone, and there is hope. I just want people to open up their hearts and minds and say, you know what, I might have somebody on that I don't agree with, but let's hear them out. I don't care if you are a transgendered homeless kid, or Sharon Stone, or Julia Roberts, or A-list celebrity. I want you to feel their pain and to celebrate their triumphs. Because in it, there's a healing that takes place when you are able to tell your story and dare to tell the truth. There's this veil that's lifted, and you're like, oh my God, they're not just that black person or Asian or white or rich or poor or gay or straight person. I see me in them. They're like me. Who I am is a very complicated question, because we're all complicated creatures. But I think let's start outside in. I was recently visiting my sister, and she lives in Fort Myers, Florida, a very teeny tiny town. And my brother-in-law was saying that, you live the American dream. TV reporter, co-hosted a show on PBS. I didn't just run Scripts to Love Arburton, but I actually co-hosted a show called California Heartland. Here, in California, it was a statewide show. And then I also was able to teach at 2 universities. And those were my 3 dreams for myself. I think a lot of American parents see me as, oh my God, love him. This is American dream. This is what my kid, I would want them to be like. Funny that my mom doesn't even know what a podcast is. She recently was like, so computer, how you get the word in the email? And here I am, I do motivational speaking, and I spend my life using my voice and writing and reading for a living. And here my mom doesn't even know what social media is. She's like, the social media, what is social media? But I think for me, I've been in this self-discovery mode since I was a little kid. I think I'm an old soul. So I've always been trying to think about who am I really? What is my fullest self? And I think we're all trying to be and live that truth. So I thought my American dream was being a TV reporter, co-host on PBS, teacher at the university level. But in my early 30s, I have achieved all that. And I still felt empty. And I was like, damn, you're a greedy son of a, right? Because you have all this, you live in a beautiful area. You're sort of like, when you're a kid, ego takes over. You're like, oh, be famous. People knew who I was locally. I made decent money, but I was still empty. And why are we empty? Because I think that for us, there's several things. One is I believe that we are all on this earth because we are like superheroes brought here with a certain power. And we're supposed to discover that power and then use it to the fullest capacity to live better and be better for ourselves. And then once we do that, share it with the world. And I think that's the root of my American dream, is to inspire people to be better and do better for themselves and other people. When I say American dream, what I mean is I live here in America, so that's the dream that kind of society wants for us here in America. But you could be anywhere in the country listening to this, or anywhere in the country thinking about what that dream is for you. And I think all personally, deep inside, we all know what we gravitate towards, whether it's do you like men? Do you like women? Do you like creativity? Do you like, painting or designing or fashion or whatever that may be? Or are you more math-centric? Are you more, I don't call it logical, but people call it logical, like math and science? Do you like to have definitive answers? And I think that our soul, we're brought here with a soul that has this sort of like GPS, right? And when we are driving, for those of y'all that drive, when you're driving too close to another car, your heart you get palpitations, white knuckles, and your hands get sweaty. And I think that you gotta listen to that. Personally, professionally, and spiritually, if you don't listen to that, you sort of die a little bit. Because we are all here on this earth. We share this human experience, and we all want to be seen, we want to be heard, and we want to be felt. We're all connected by these truths. And if we are playing a role and we're trying to be someone else that we're not, that deteriorates, because you can't play the role forever. I've had so many truths. I don't even know where to begin. I think the realization that I wanted to make my parents really proud of me, and I'm really the antithesis of what I think my parents wanted me to be. They wanted me to be a filial, dutiful Asian son that would, go off and marry a Chinese girl and make, lots of money. My mom was like, doctor, lawyer, engineer. And no kidding. I mean, like, why wouldn't you want your kids to be in a career where you would obviously make a lot of money? Because my parents were Chinese, mostly Chinese, and we're Chinese. We're born in Vietnam, all 5 of my siblings and I. And when we came to America, my parents left everything. They were wealthy. They had help. They had a construction business. And just after the fall of Saigon, I was 8 months old, and my parents decided to get on a boat and leave for the American dream. And imagine how scary it would be to have 5 children, youngest of 5 kids, 2 older sisters, 2 older brothers, and to escape your comforts, your creature comforts, because you want them to have a better life. And when I say better life, I'll be specific. It's freedom, a chance at education. And for me, I think really it's living your truth. And so we were boat people. We went to Indonesia for a couple of years, and then we ended up in South Sacramento. And stark reality was that there was 10 of us in a trailer park. And that's how my life began. And growing up, I was obsessed with reading. I read like Amelia Bedelia books, Judy Blume, Where the Wild Things Are, anything I could get my hands on. I would even read shampoo bottles in the shower. It's like, rinse, lather, repeat, methylparaben. And my mom would be like, oh, who you talk to in shower? I was obsessed with reading. And in college, the first time anybody saw me was Carolyn Weber. And she was this like epitome of beautiful, tall, or what people think is beautiful, tall, slender, blonde hair, whatever people think is beautiful. And I took I dared to take a class because the truth is I knew that I loved reading, writing, and talking. And it was a expository creative writing class. And I went to class the first day, and Carolyn Weber was in Oxford, studying to get her Oxford doctorate at Oxford in romantic literature, which like baffled me because I thought doctor, lawyer, engineer was going to be my path. And I took this class and for the first day, and the assignment was to write a one-page snapshot of an autobiographical moment that changed your life forever. And I think that that's a good place to start if you're really trying to figure out your truth. And I honestly forgot what I wrote about, but I knew that I wrote it, I turned it in, and then a couple classes later, I was just going to skip because I knew that D-Day was coming, that she was going to, I thought, rip me a new one and say that, oh, what are you doing in this class? You don't belong here. You're not a good writer. Because I never thought I was a good writer or a good storyteller or connector or using my communication skills. So I remember going to the class, wanting to drop, and I had the courage to dare myself to go. And she handed me back the paper and she smiled in her lovely British accent. I'm going to do a lot of British accents because I love British accents. So knackered. But anyway, so she was like, lovely job. And she gave me this paper back, and I remember in perfect penmanship, right across the middle of that paper, she put, "You're such a gifted and lively writer. What will you do with your talents?" And I tell people this because I do motivational speaking as well, and that always gives me the chills because for the first time, somebody saw me for who I really was, my truth. So in this podcast, I will dare people to sort of tell their truth by just through conversation, intimate conversations. And I believe that while there will be immediate actions like, hey, here's some ideas, and there will be a little Toan takeaway for the truth tribe, but we're all on our journey. So it's okay if at this moment you're not ready to tell the truth, but a seed is planted, and eventually you will be able to tell your truth to people. Anytime I do motivational speaking or teaching or workshops or anything, it's never a one-way conversation. And I want this to be a place where we have dialogue through social media, through emails sent back and forth, through sharing your own story, because I am asking people to tell the truth. I don't have it all figured out. None of us have it figured out. But, I've had this blessing of being able to be a TV reporter where I get to meet so many more people and have so many more conversations with people. And in that, I've learned more about myself. So my hope is just to have people laugh and cry and just have fun. And, we're just figuring this all out together. I don't have it all figured out. I ended up pursuing a career in journalism because I wanted to represent for the people in the community. So I went off, became a TV reporter at the ABC station in Wausau, Wisconsin, went to Midland, Odessa, Texas, the NBC station, went to the CBS station in Fresno, and then I landed here at the independent station in San Francisco as a TV reporter here. And that was when I realized the aha, and I felt a shift that happened to me because we all know our truths, but it's scared to face that truth, and we're scared to take action on that truth. And I remember one day I was running in the Presidio, and the Presidio here has a lot of very tall trees. It's almost majestic. There's a lot of car commercials that are shot there. And I was running, and something like punched me in the chest, I felt like, and I kind of just stopped. And it was a very stressful moment in my life because it was a down economy and like the news was crazy everywhere, death and destruction, always reporting on that. And I realized that I wanted to use my power of connecting with people to inspire them to be better and do better, not share stories of death and destruction, and bring that energy into people's lives through the airwaves. And so I looked up in the trees, and they were sort of like rustling and dancing and I don't know what I got out of it. It was just a sense of like quiet and calm. Fast forward, it's funny how moments happen in your life that just, when the student is ready, the teacher appears is a great quote I love, a spiritual quote that I love. And down economy, And mortgage meltdown. I was at a friend's place. We had a trip planned to Peru. And my friend's name is Yasi, and she's a landscape architect working at this boutique firm here. Half of the people at her job was laid off. Many people were laid off at my station. And I told her, when we get back from Peru in a month, I'm going to quit my job. And people thought I was crazy. Market number 6 in San Francisco, less than 2% of people is what I hear that make it actually on air. There's only about 140 jobs on air here in the San Francisco Bay Area, and here I am wanting to leave. Of course, if I was a doctor, lawyer, engineer, like my mom wanted me to be, tens of thousands of jobs. But I told her that I just couldn't do it anymore, and I just couldn't live with myself doing it. And just this shift happened in me, and I said, you know what? When we get back, I'm going to quit my job. And I always believe that be careful what you think, because your thoughts become your words, and be careful what you say, because what you say manifests and it becomes real. It's your reality. So if you're telling yourself, I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm stupid, I'm never going to be rich, I'm never going to achieve my dreams, then you know what? You've already told yourself you're not going to do it. The universe is listening. And like Eckhart Tolle says, the universe conspires to help you, right? But if the shutters are closed, the sunlight cannot come in. One of my favorite quotes. And so I told her this. I said, so when we get back in about a month's time, I'm going to quit my job. And I had no plans. I was scared. I had not a lot of savings. And guess what? Be careful what you say, because I told her, I know, though, that I can use my words and my creativity, not only to make a living, but impact the world. And the next day I walk into work. And over the loudspeaker, they're like, Toan Lam, please come to HR. And it's never good if you get asked to go to HR, right? And so I go upstairs, and they said, here's your papers. I got laid off. I was the 14th round of layoffs. And in my heart, I was like, yes! I was so excited, because I knew that I got a severance check, let's be real. So I could spend, a few more months kind of figuring out what I wanted to do. But I knew at that point that, that was a big sign. So I started covering stories about just everyday people doing awesome things. And that's all I knew. I had no idea. YouTube was just new. I started an account on YouTube and started uploading these videos about everyday heroes. It ended up being, fast forward 7 years, this awesome spiritual journey called Go Inspire Go. And Go Inspire Go is a multimedia platform where I find stories about everyday heroes, action items at the end of the blogs and video, and we leverage social media to inspire people to share and care. And I think that when you share and care, people share and care about you. But the idea is to hear stories about everyday heroes so that you can find the power in you to be a hero and help. Gosh, I can't even begin to tell you the amazing spiritual lessons that I learned from this. I've naturally 150 plus people from around the world, it's sort of like a mini movement, came and used their social media skills, their editing and shooting skills, and and started helping on this journey. So we've done about 70 videos. There's stories about like a 5-year-old girl, a kindergartner, Phoebe Russell, who saw hungry homeless people in San Francisco and wanted to help them. She said, it makes me sad, but I want to help. Those were the two things she knew. It made her sad, and she wanted to help. And so she was like, who helps hungry homeless people? The food bank. And so she was like, well, I want to collect aluminum cans, because that was her only ROI. And so she was like, I'm going to collect cans, and I want to collect $1,000 for the food bank. And the teacher said, honey, you can't collect $1,000 worth of cans in 2 months. And so she wrote letters, 50 letters, and asked people for aluminum cans so that she can collect money, recycle cans, and give them to the food bank. Well, what happened was amazing. There were people that donated tens of thousands of cans. Money came in anonymously in blank envelopes with cash to her kindergarten class. And, oh gosh, it almost makes me like emotional thinking about it. But she ended up collecting almost $4,000 worth of money to give to the San Francisco Food Bank. That's 18,000 meals. Then through social media, somebody contacted me and said, hey, there's a chicken company that's doing a Feed the Hungry contest. So send the video to them. They contacted me and said, oh my God, this girl is remarkable. We want to give her a special prize of 15 tons of chicken to give to the food bank. That's 35,000 pounds. And so that was the second video that we did. And then the third video was, she was all grown up in the first grade, and she had found out that some kids in her kindergarten class, a former kindergarten class, saw what she did and wanted to replicate the project. They ended up raising about $4,000 as well. So at the end of the day, over 200,000 meals served in the local community. And that's just one of the many stories that we've done. I'm a very spiritual person, and so a good friend told me that when many people tell you the same thing, Toan, that's like God's whisper. Universe's whisper, whatever you call it, it's whisper. That's the thing that created us. It's whisper, God's whisper. And many people are like, oh, you need to do a podcast. You need to do a podcast, and you need to get yourself out there more and tell your story. And I was sort of afraid to tell my story. I was like, no, well, I'll tell stories about heroes, and that's just a little part of me. And it wasn't until a friend of mine, Gina, told me, she said, Toan, before we talk again, I want you to take a photo of get a headshot of yourself and put it on the Go Inspire Go website, because people connect with people, not organizations. And I wrote a little bit more about my story and dared to do that. And then guess what? Like, so many opportunities came. I started doing more motivational speaking. More people saw these stories about everyday heroes. I was like, no, I don't want to be the hero. I just want to be the sidekick. And people were connected to my energy and the way I told the story and captured the spirit of these people and who they really were. And so I think authenticity trumps all. Your truth trumps all. And I'm always one to, I always go with the flow. It's so interesting because when people tell me, oh, you're crazy to leave your TV reporting gig in the top 10 market during the down economy, I followed my heart. And what happened? Healing happened. I was able to help so many people. We sent 32 kids to school in Haiti for a full year through a story. We helped a 5-year-old girl, a kindergartner, enable the food bank to give out 200,000 plus meals through her letter writing and campaign where she was collecting aluminum cans. One of the stories that I'm most proud of is I did a story about Ron Holt, who's a psychiatrist who does his own research on the biology of sexuality and goes to different small towns and big cities and spreads compassion and action and through science and letting people know Ron is a gay man, and he told his story. His dad said very mean things to him and even said, I'm going to kill you if I find you with another man or if you have a boyfriend. So he actually went into hiding, and covering Ron's story, people found their own truth and were liberated. Grown men and women came out to their opposite sex partners and their kids and said, I'm gay. There's a kid in a small town, I believe it was somewhere in Canada, that wrote in. He said, I saw this video in somewhere in a cafe, internet cafe, and Dr. Ron Holt, you may be a stranger, but you know me more than anybody that knows me. Because when I told my family that I was gay, my parents kicked me out, and I'd been homeless for 4 years. And he alluded to the fact that he's tried to hurt himself and all that, but now he's just really okay with who he is. And there's sort of a healing that takes place. There's a magic that happens when you tell stories and share stories and dare to tell your own truth. Being a TV reporter and having the privilege to meet so many people around the world, people always want to open up and naturally have wanted to open up and tell me stories. And people are afraid. People are scared to be themselves. And I think that when you care to share your story, people care and share with you. I lost 4 family members in about a year's time. It was my dad. After my dad passed away, my dad was about 57 when he died of stomach cancer. And then my aunt, my mom's sister, was in her mid-40s, and she died of breast cancer a few months after my father. And then I had 2 grandmothers pass away, and they all died in about a year's time. And what that made me realize is, through all the pain and suffering that I went through, it made me realize that life is too short. And, tomorrow's not promised, the next minute isn't promised. So what is it that is true to you, and how do you want to live? And the people that really love you will come around. I think one of the worst things that could happen is having regrets in life. And having 4 people die in about a year's time, I realized that if you're blessed enough to have the last few days and know that you're going to die, what's your regret going to be? My dad always said, before you die, let the world hear your lyrics and your music. And the music is our truth. But daring to tell that truth is hard, because you want your parents to be proud of you. You want your friends and family to be proud of you. But I think that it comes with a price of putting yourself out there on a limb. And I think we're all so scared to do that. But I think when you tell the truth, you feel so much better. There's a story about Ellen DeGeneres. She has this amazing commencement speech. If you just Google Ellen DeGeneres and commencement speech, she talks about how when she came out of the closet, on her show, she had a sitcom, and she came out to Oprah. Oprah, I love both of them, but Oprah played the psychiatrist, and she was like, I was afraid I'd lose my job, and I did. I lost my show, and I didn't know how I was going to pay rent. And I knocked on all these doors to try to do another show, and nobody wanted me. But I think it was Warner Brothers that gave her the chance. And now she's like spreading kindness and fun and love everywhere. So how awesome is that? And I think that in telling stories, there's something magical that happens. When you tell your story, or you tell other people's stories, or you tell your truth, it's sort of like this veil is lifted. And the sun actually touches your face. And that's something really beautiful. I trust truth because that's the only thing that's real. You know your truth, but do you dare to step out of yourself and to share it? The irony of truth, it's so funny. You know what? I think we take ourselves too seriously. You just gotta laugh at yourself or call out the obvious. So you bring to a room whatever energy you want to bring, right? So if you bring your authentic self, people connect to that. If you bring a little fun or a little dancing or your true self or you're singing, then you bring that, you show up. And one of my favorite quotes is by the late Maya Angelou. You come as one, but you represent as 10,000. And I hope that one by one through these conversations, these intimate conversations, that you're bringing forth all the energy of the people and the opportunities and the love that's created you, so that it will burst the listener wide open. It's so interesting that this podcast is launching just after the 2016 presidential election, but sort of not. I think that if you look back in history, whether it was a Democrat or Republican in office, like, they're still hurting on either side. And I know Trump people who are great people. I know that people that voted for Hillary that are good people. But I think once you stop listening to each other's truths and just wondering like why they do what they do, then love can't kind of seep through. And I think that timing has to do with everything. And it's so funny that this idea of TruthDare, inspiring you to tell your truth and daring you to be more of you, was born just before the election. And the nation is hurting now more than I think ever in my lifetime. But if we just listen to each other's stories and try to think about what those truths are, there's a certain sort of healing that takes place. And one thing I love so much about stories is that through storytelling, that's the thread that connects all of us, no matter who you are, whether, back in the cavewomen days, the old Negro spirituals, the petroglyphs and hieroglyphs in Egypt, we're all connected by stories. So whether you're listening to this, just after the 2016 presidential election, where there's a lot of hate crimes and horrible things that are happening in the world, let's be real, or 6 years, 10 years later, we're all on a different part of our journey. But there are life lessons and things that we're supposed to learn, because if we don't learn from these things or these people, they're going to come back in different ways, shapes, and forms. And I think that there's only one truth, and that truth is that love really wins at the end of the day. Is that if you're scared of telling your truth personally, professionally, spiritually, and you get to the point where you tell the truth, then there's so much catharsis and healing and freedom that takes place. And this is just a little corner of the world that, that I want to bring a little bit more like love and light and joy and fun. So this first episode, I dared myself to go first because I wanted you to know a little bit about me, and eventually you'll know a lot about me. And along the way, along this adventure, you'll know more of my truth. And I hope you find yours. Now, we want to hear from you. We have an awesome tool on our website at TruthDareTalk.com where you can call in and anonymously, or you can tell us your name. You could tell us your truth. It's always welcome here. And you can speak your name or keep it anonymous. Ooh, we love mystery. And all you need to do to tell the truth is go to our website, click on the Speak Pipe button, and tell us your truth. And you can use your mobile phone. Just go to TruthDareTalk.com. For those of you who know me know that I love me some flip-flops. This episode is sponsored in part by the most inspiring of them all, Moloko, soulful flip-flops that leave positive messages in the sand. Each pair you buy means a child in poverty gets a pair of shoes. Moloko, good for your soul. And if you have kids in your life, you'll want to learn more about Community Heroes, a school-based program that grooms young philanthropists and the next generation of heroes. That's ComHeroes, ComHeroes.org. And one truth that connects us all is that we'll all be caregivers or cared for one day. The Wheel Life mobile app makes it easy to coordinate care for your family and friends, especially during health challenges and aging. That's www.theweallife.com.
You've been listening to Truth Dare with your host, Toan Lam. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher. And check out our website at TruthDareTalk.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at TruthDare Talk. You can join our conversation anonymously and tell us your truth. Click on the SpeakPipe link on our website at TruthDareTalk.com and use your mobile phone to speak your truth. Your truth is welcome here.